Hi guys, it's Luetin here, and today I'm joined by Dasgro, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the new generation of consoles, what it means for Battlefield, and what it means within the context of competitive play for Battlefield. So Dasgro, we've seen both the PlayStation 4 reveal and the Xbox One reveal. Now, given within the context of Battlefield 4, it's obviously going to mean a lot. We've already heard a lot about, for example, player counts, frame rates, etc., etc. But I think there's a whole conversation to be had about how their systems are going to support the infrastructure, especially when it comes to competitive. Have you got any sort of main thoughts that you've come just off the back of these reveals, which are specifically relevant to competitive play?
Well, thanks for having me on. I think that when we start looking at these reveals, we find some really cool news that only affirm potential for competitive play in the future. Let's first hit up the hardware stuff. So we have AMD Jaguar Core CPUs, Jaguar-based CPUs. They're 8-core, which is a lot of cores. And for those that are on the hardware side that are interested in this kind of stuff, one of the really cool things about Frostbite is its exceptional ability to handle additional cores and additional CPU power. The scaling is quite amazing. And if you give it a bunch of GPU power, like a triple SLI setup, for instance, it will eat up every ounce of the CPU in order to facilitate that GPU power that it has under its belt. And even with the higher end CPUs like the Intel Extreme Edition, you can max them out and you still have a lot of room left with those GPUs. The reason why this is significant is that it means that for the next gen consoles, and take in mind both PS4 and Xbox One are using the same AMD architecture. They're using the same 8-core CPUs. It's a big deal, and they're going to be able to really capitalize on all that power to create not only the Battlefield experience that we're sort of used to on consoles, but a much larger one. Greater player counts, greater features, a more in-depth experience.
Because I think from what a lot of people have been saying was that with the new systems, that wasn't 100% sure how they were going to handle Battlefield 4. But, you know, whilst, it's on Frostbite 3, the transition in terms of graphics and the requirements therein, it's not a significant leap. It's a development on, as we've seen. And, they're calling it Frostbite 3. They're calling it Frostbite 3 because of the way, as I explained on my video, which looked at the whole sort of technical aspect about Frostbite 3. They've changed the way in which it functions significantly. However, it's not an entirely new engine, and so for that reason it means that it should be supported so much better with the new consoles. You're going to be able to get a hell of a lot more out of it, as you say, with those CPU cores. So the gameplay that you're going to be able to get there is going to be significantly better, which leads us on to talking about the extra features that they may be including with Battlefield 4, and the fact that with this extra power, it's going to be a better experience for everybody all across the board. So, what kind of things do you think you'd expect to see? Again, we're talking specifically with competitive here. We've obviously mentioned battle record, etc. before, but I think just the fact that these systems are going to have all this extra power now, it means that those things are so much more legitimately likely to be supported, aren't they?
No, I totally agree with that. When you look at the power of these systems, not only on a CPU side, but the sheer volume of RAM, the number of transistors that you have, about 5 million for Xbox One, roughly a little the same for PS4. That's enough power that you have a lot of overhead available to do additional things, like, for instance, have a Spectator Mode. Spectator Mode actually takes a little bit more power than just playing the game because you can be anywhere on the map, and you're traditionally going to be experiencing a lot more of the action relative to being in Metro in a room just waiting for guys to come in. And that will require a little bit more power relative to what we're used to, but I think that these systems have it. And then in addition to this, battle recorder or dimmer recording also is something that does require a lot of power. The recording isn't that big of a deal because it's simply just taking telemetry data and metadata and putting it together. But being able to recreate that locally, which is to say you are actually creating a local Battlefield server on your piece of hardware, and then in this server you are then rendering all the things that you would otherwise already be rendering on the client side, means you got to have a whole lot more power. But I think that these systems are going to have it, And Battle Quarter and Spectator Mode are two fantastic tools that are needed to have a good esports title, because it's about being able to share these great battlefield moments, being able to share what went right, what went wrong with the gameplay, being able to define that you don't just run into a few guys that are really good or a few guys that you may think are cheating. You can actually see the best play on Battle Recorder and see all the moves that they did and find that they were doing things that you perhaps didn't fully appreciate. Right now, the only way you can experience that is on YouTube. And a lot of the guys on YouTube are posting footage of them just playing in public servers, and the skill variety is so diverse in some of these public servers that you really don't get to see an appreciation for that sort of highest end of competitive skill that's out there. And so I'm really looking forward to these two features, and I believe that we will see them in Battlefield 4.
And I think when we talk about the actual systems themselves, when we look at PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, now everybody knows Microsoft, not my favorite company, and we all know the deal with Xbox One. However, I would say that there are two main kind of features with both systems that I think benefit a lot the kind of competitive play aspect going into Battlefield 4. Now, the share feature for PlayStation 4 is obviously a really nice feature, because it will enable people to say, look at this match, and depending on how long the match runs for, or maybe they just want to pick up a specific highlight and say, look at this key moment in this game, they can share that, push that forward. So that's a really, really nice feature to be able to have there. With Xbox Live and Xbox One, that's their main sort of I think that's their strong hand there. Everybody knows that the kind of network of players and the way they interact with one another on Xbox One, Xbox Live, that's a really, really strong feature. And it seems that okay, there's a load of problems going on with sort of Xbox One people are talking about. However, I think that their kind of functionality and the way that players can kind of integrate, matchmake and so on and get together, it's a very strong feature of that system, and I think that will play very well into the whole kind of competitive aspect for any game, but obviously going into Battlefield 4 as well. Do you think you agree with those as well?
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of these features on PlayStation 4 in terms of live streaming. I think it gives people another way of showcasing themselves, and for a lot of people who have consoles, the notion that you have to spend $160 on an Agalto Game Broadcaster HD or an Evermedia card, or have a computer to do your broadcasting, that's a barrier to entry. And we don't want barriers to entry for any of this. We don't want barriers to entry of people putting stuff on YouTube. We don't want barriers to entry of people posting stuff on Twitch and live streaming. We want to make this as seamless as possible. We don't want these barriers, because these barriers mean that you essentially have only a certain small portion of the population that can do it.
I totally agree, and I think with Xbox Live and Xbox One, that's something that they have really focused on, is this seamless nature, because whilst they still have a lot to talk about, they didn't really talk too much about the network and its capabilities there. I think it's obviously going to be a feature. We'll obviously have to wait for E3 to hear about it, but just the kind of general impression I got, now as I say guys, didn't like the reveal. However, I do feel that, the thing that they were pushing was this idea of seamlessness, and that you could simply move from one thing to another, and I think that integrated, again, into Battlefield and competitive, that'll be a strong suit. So that's really, from their side, that's the thing that I would look at and be interested to hear more about.
Yes, one of the things that they did mention that really piqued my interest was they mentioned that Xbox One is going to have an incredible matchmaking capability. And while they didn't talk a lot about what that meant, what it means to me is that they are going to emphasize that when players want to have a gaming experience, they want to have a good one. They don't want to just join a server and then get their asses kicked because they joined a server and they're on the wrong side of the lot. They're on a server and the team's being base camped. You don't want that. It's not fun. And for a lot of us, we only got a few hours a day to play games, and we don't want to spend 30 minutes mad that the bad luck of the draw. And join a bad server with a bad team, or teammates that are not playing the objective, or teammates that or worse are just dicking around.
Yeah.
I think all of us want to have a better experience, and matchmaking, be it in the highest level of competition or simply just in playing the game casually, matchmaking does that. Matchmaking isn't about pairing you with the best guy. It's about pairing you with someone who is going to be approximately of the same skill as you, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little lower. But having a challenging game like that, that balance between having this great challenging game, this great fun game, and doing both, they're very much symbiotic. And when you can play against a player that's on a team, and you yourself are on a team, and you're approximately the same skill set and same abilities, you have these great battlefield moments, these great experiences, and you know that when you're playing the game, you're not guaranteed to win. You know that there's a chance that you may lose, but you know if you put that extra amount of effort and you coordinate just a little bit more and you play the objective and you use good comms and good tactics, you may win it. And those are the best moments for me. And I think it's the best moments for a lot of people. And I hope that in this we'll see more matchmaking, not just in Xbox One like they said in the release, but also in PlayStation 4 as well.
Yeah, and I think the way that specifically relates into Battlefield 4, as we say, this idea of having smoother matchmaking experiences and the fact that you may be compared much better with other people. Now, to directly bring that into competitive, we've talked a little bit before about sort of ladders and so on and so on and so on. Now, as I say, a couple of my examples, things would be, for example, in Killzone, it had an entire league system kind of built in there where you could build your team inside the game itself and then challenge other teams, and you would gain sort of XP sort of scores back and forth between there. Now, again, another example is that we've spoken World of Warcraft. Now, people know I play World of Warcraft a ton. I would have played in the original system where the honor ranking system there for players, but then obviously went into arena mode. And arena, like that's what you said to me, is very similar to kind of StarCraft in the way that it functions there, that you have, for example, one team is maybe not that good. Maybe they have sort of a low score rating for themselves. Let's just call it 2. You have another player team and their squad or whatever is much better. They've won a ton of games. They play quite hardcore and they have a much better rating, maybe up at 8. So when those teams would end up playing one another, get a challenge. If the high team beat the low team, they get very little score back from it because obviously of their higher rating. But if the small team beat that much stronger team, they will get a large score back from it. And I think that's an interesting thing to bring in. And as I say, to tie those into the systems of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the idea that they have this kind of functionality of much better matchmaking, but also much just stronger systems for kind of sharing and just general player bases, the entire network and community. I think that these kind of features are something we're going to see not just perhaps in Battlefield, but also in other titles as well. So going forward into these new sorry, I'm all over the place. Going forward into these new systems, I think that's the kind of thing that we should expect to see, and I hope that we will see. But with Battlefield 4, is those the kind of things that you would be looking for in order to sort of facilitate a much stronger competitive environment?
I'd like those things as options. I want to give people options out there. Right now, we actually have some pretty cool features it is in the Battlefield franchise in terms of ranks and unlocks, and there's tremendous incentive to play a variety of the guns, variety of the classes, variety of the game modes, and you're able to reach that sort of higher skill levels as you continue to rank up. But I think one of the limitations behind the ranking system is that it is based mainly on grinding, and I use that word disparagingly, but what it means is that if you put in a lot of time and effort into it, your rank will naturally progress higher, and some may have the ability to progress faster than others with higher score per minute, but when you start to reach an apex in terms of points, you get that level 100 kernel and you're done. But I'll tell you guys, all level 100 kernels, they are not the same in terms of skill.
Yeah, definitely.
And what happens is that people now think level 100, great skill. Well, some of them actually do have great skill. Some of them don't. And I think that when people want to go to that next level and say, well, I don't just want to play in a server and take a dice roll and see what I get in terms of my teammates and the players I play against. I actually want to have another way where I'm actually playing against people that are in a balanced environment, and I want to be rewarded for playing in these organized games and getting perhaps into a higher ladder, have perhaps a new dog tag that says I'm in the gold ladder or I'm in the silver ladder, and that way it's another way for people to say, hey, Okay, they're a level 100 colonel, but wow, this guy is in the platinum ladder.
Yeah.
He has not only just played the game a lot, but he has beat a lot of players out there. And that, I think that's another way of people showing street cred that they actually are good. It gives them another avenue to enjoy the game, because now there's another way to prove yourself to others, as well as to get more enjoyment out of it, because it's not just playing a random game and then I may just curb stop everyone, but I'm going to play an intense battle with other players who also are as good as I am, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely.
And that, I think that's where where I think the potential lies.
I definitely think so. I think that being able to physically show something to other people that you can, it is a little bit bragging, but often that comes with the competitive aspect of it. And as you say, this idea of just the more you really, really put into it, the more you get out of it to get those things, I think that's necessary, because to get 100 kernel, you literally just have to play the game. And we always see these 500% servers. We always see these people on, just setting up to rack score, and they don't, they're not cheating, but they set up an environment for like-minded people to come along and rack that score, and it's meaningless. I have all the time on my server people saying, oh no, the whole team is 100 kernels on the other side, and I always say, guys, it's meaningless. Okay, yes, it means that those people have played the game plenty, but that doesn't mean that they've done anything other than just run around like headless chickens, getting a load of kills and pushing those paddles all the time.
I mean, we've all been there, where we played a metro server and there's a few support guys who got an ammo box next to them, and they're just spamming nades into side stairs.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this guy is spending 30 minutes of his life throwing grenades into side stairs, not even using his main gun. He's getting points, he's getting kills, and he's grinding it out.
Yeah.
Is he having fun? He actually may be having fun. I can't speak to his intentions, but I'll tell you that he may actually get a really high rank through spending all this time playing it. But do you really think that rank is the same as some guy who is playing recon, putting the MAV down, he's running around, he's getting spots, putting SOFLAM down? It's a whole different skill set, and so we have to think beyond the current constraints of what it means to have certain ranks.
I always say a very intelligent monkey could get max rank, because to be honest, it's kind of like, that's pretty much all you need to just do the same thing over and over for an extended period of time, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, for example, COD 4, I think I stayed 55 star for the whole game, because you got like nothing for doing any better. I had all my equipment. I didn't need to rank up. It was meaningless. It was literally just a case of having a little gold tag right there. And I can't even tell you the amount of times we joined a game, and they were all the max, was it 10 prestige, gold icon, and everyone's like, oh no, play the game out. Yeah, they play the game out. They get destroyed, literally. I mean, the guys I used to play COD 4 with were quite sort of dedicated, and we were very disciplined, and we knew all our push points, we knew all our spawn points. We'd move up to those lines and hold them down, and these guys would just get destroyed. Their ranks meant nothing. And I think, but to bring it back, I think it would be a very, very good thing to bring in the kind of, to tie in with the competitive, to bring competitive into the main game, because at the moment I often feel like it's kind of on the outside, and I think it needs to come in. Now, it doesn't mean to say that everyone has to then play competitive. It's an option, a choice. Yeah. Now, for me, I have played competitive way too much in my life, and I don't have the kind of time or the sort of probably the patience to do it anymore. I've really hardcore competitive in the past in the games that I've played, but now it's just not for me. But to bring it back, my competitive period was in World of Warcraft, because that's what I was playing at the time for like 5 years. And in that game, that you had the ability to unlock features, titles for yourself, equipment for yourself that nobody else could get. This was early on in the game. Later on in the game, they enabled it so that people could pick it up through just general points. Kind of devalued everything and pissed people off, especially people like myself who spent literally unbelievable amounts of time grinding score to get that stuff. I mean, for me as well, me and the guys that I played with, we often would play like 15 hours a day every day for a week, just constantly in competitive matches, just every day, in out. One game would end, another would begin, and we would just play like that all day long. And my team was, to be honest, one of the best on my server, so we did destroy a lot of players, and we would often get to the point people would just join in and go like, oh, it's them, and they just leave immediately. We got to the point we sometimes had hard games. But I mean, the thing is you want that kind of recognition. That's what makes people really, really dedicated to competitive. You get a team of, however many people you want to play. If you're playing 24 matches, or you're playing 32 matches, whatever, okay, you just get that team of guys who are dedicated. You all have the same ideals, you all have the same principles, and you work and you grind and you get the score and you get the recognition. And that's what they need to do, is bring in some stuff into the game to give that recognition, so that when people see them in the game, they're like, holy crap. Not only do they see maybe know what it is, or you have people that have just joined the game, they see these players and they think, wow, check that guy's stuff, like how can I do that? And I think that's a naturally good thing. I remember the first time I played sort of WoW and stuff, and when I was getting into it, I saw these players with this stuff and their titles, and I thought, holy crap, like, I want that. I want to be part of that. And it gave me a goal and ambition to kind of push forward through, especially at this kind of late stage in Battlefield now, where we're kind of like, I would classify as kind of like end game. People have kind of got to a point and they're like, okay, what can we do with the game now? I hear that all the time. Well, if they had these kind of features, this functionality, and perhaps, as I say, the next generation of consoles are going to make that, more viable for people.
Yes, I think that it's important to recognize, guys, when we talk about this, it's simply an option. It's simply another avenue in which to have fun. And for you guys that really have no interest in the competitive side, think about this. If you have all these competitive players who have another avenue in which to play the game and have fun, and they want to be super competitive and they want to play for hours on end, well, that has a secondary impact for everyone else, because what it means is that it means that the casual gamers, when they join a casual server, may find that these super pro players aren't there, and that they too can have a lot of fun just playing with other casual people in a sandbox environment.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important to have these kinds of features available. It just gives more people the option to have different types of fun, and it actually can improve the quality of fun for everyone in general.
I think that's a really good sentiment, and I think it's something that everybody would like to see. As I say, it is worth mentioning that it is an optional thing. Competitive is not for everyone. I mean, I admit it myself that, it's something that I've done in the past plenty, but it's not something that I would really favour right now. However, I really respect, and I would love it to be a bigger part of the game, because I know the experience of it. I remember it. I enjoy it. So, today, guys, we've been talking about competitive in Battlefield 4, but we've been talking about it within the context of the next generation of consoles, obviously, and the PC as well. So let us know your thoughts. What do you think about it? What would you like to see in terms of the functionality, the infrastructure that those new systems are going to provide, and then within the context of competitive play? If they did some of the things that we've been talking about today, would that be more appealing to you in terms of getting into competitive? Would you like to see it simply from a perspective of extending the life and the gameplay? It gives you something else to aim for, to get involved in. Let us know below, guys, and we'll see you next time for some more Battlefield 4 discussions.
And you still have a lot of room left with those GPUs. The reason why this is significant is that it means that for the next gen consoles, so take in mind both PS4 and Xbox One are using the same AMD architecture. They're using the same 8-core CPUs. It's a big deal, and they're going to be able to really capitalize on all that power to create not only the Battlefield experience that we're sort of used to on consoles, but a much larger one. Greater player counts, greater features, a more in-depth,
etc. But I think there's a whole conversation to be had about how their systems are going to support the infrastructure, especially when it comes to competitive. Have you got any sort of main thoughts that you've come just off the back of these reveals which are specifically relevant to competitive play?
Well, and thanks for having me on. I think that when we start looking at these reveals, we find some really cool news that only affirm potential for competitive play in the future. Let's first hit up the hardware stuff. So we have AMD Jaguar Core CPUs, Jaguar-based CPUs. They're 8-core.
Hi guys, it's Luetin here, and today I'm joined by Daskro, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the new generation of consoles, what it means for Battlefield, and what it means within the context of competitive play for Battlefield. So Daskro, we've seen both the PlayStation 4 reveal and the Xbox One reveal. Now, given within the context of Battlefield 4, it's obviously going to mean a lot. We've already heard a lot about, for example, player counts, frame rates, etc.
Which is a lot of cores, and for those that are on the hardware side that are interested in this kind of stuff, one of the really cool things about Frostbite is its exceptional ability to handle additional cores and additional CPU power. The scaling is quite amazing. And if you give it a bunch of GPU power, like a triple SLI setup, for instance, it will eat up every ounce of the CPU in order to facilitate that GPU power that it has under its belt. And even with the higher end CPUs like the Intel Extreme Edition, you can max them out experience.
Because I think from what a lot of people have been saying was that with the new systems, that wasn't 100% sure how they were going to handle Battlefield 4. But, you know, whilst, yeah, it's on Frostbite 3, the transition in terms of graphics and the requirements therein, it's not a significant leap. It's a development on, as we've seen. And, yeah, they're calling it Frostbite 3. They're calling it Frostbite 3 because of the way, as I explained on my video, which looked at the whole sort of technical aspect about Frostbite 3. Yeah, they've changed the way in which it functions significantly. However, it's not a entirely